What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Gonna try to start doing videos again more consistently. So this will be kind of the first video that I'm gonna start calling Tales from the Crypto. I really want to kind of take a wider snapshot of the entire kind of ecosystem. I still do a lot of research daily, and there's tons of news that comes out. Might not be hypey from the coin standpoint and stuff like that, but there's always a lot of interesting initiatives kind of going on across the entire ecosystem. So with that being said, I'm going to start running with it here. If you guys aren't aware, Aleph Zero, they released a $50 million ecosystem funding program. This is Anthony Zolciak, and he is the co-founder of Aleph Zero, announcing that the ecosystem received 44 applications to the Aleph Zero grant program. 14 out of 44 projects were under detailed review, and agreements have been signed with 11 out of 14 projects. Should also mention, for those of you guys that have looked into Aleph Zero recently, they did, I think this was last week, they now have Ledger integration. So certainly the cold storage aspect's important. Came across this as well today. So this is Forbes transitioning to the metaverse, getting everybody to use the Web3 ecosystem. One thing of note within this is, I'm not going to read this entire thing here, but we've seen multiple studies, one of which is through Gartner, which came out, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, stating that by 2026, 25% of people will spend at least 1 hour a day in the metaverse for work, shopping, education, social, and or entertainment. The same report also stating that by 2026, 30% of organizations in the world will have products and services ready for the metaverse. Maybe that's a little bit early, but I certainly think that we're going, in that direction. Everybody's going more digital. Think about how much time we spend on our phones already. One could argue that we're kind of already in the metaverse to an extent. And digitization, the injection of kind of crypto into these ecosystems, and it's going to be really interesting to watch how it pans out. So that Gartner study, I think, came out last year. Also, $46,950,000,000 entering the U.S. banking system in 1 week as banks deploy expensive fix for deposit flight. This reminds me, after 2020, when we had the capitulation around the pandemic aspects, how much money was injected into the banking system, and kind of what happened to digital assets after that. Nearly $47 billion has entered the U.S. banking system in just 1 week as banks deploy new strategies to bring customers back. Depositors added exactly $46.95 billion to the American bank accounts in the week ending June 21st, according to new stats compiled by the Federal Reserve Economic Data System. Talking about the Federal Reserve and Fednow, that is launching at the end of July, I believe. I've seen a lot of people stating that it 100% has nothing to do with the United States CBDC. I've done some deep dives on Fednow. I did 3 of them back in August of last year, talking about kind of interoperability aspects that could be present within distributed ledger technology and blockchain and digital assets and stuff like that. A newer one that I found today, a member of the Fednow Service Provider Showcase, I'll show you here at the end of this video, directly involved in the digital dollar project and now integrating into Fednow. So I do think that there are some aspects of Fednow that lead me to believe that down the line that might be, probably is going to be eventually like the US's CBDC kind of rollout aspect as well. But we'll get through that here at the end of the video. Stumbled across this as well. This is European Digital Assets Exchange coming out with a document entitled Stablecoins, Real-Time Settlements, CBDC, The Great Difference. The concept of a digital currency or central bank digital currency first introduced into the wider public in 2016. He was by the deputy governor for the monetary policy at the Bank of England. Since then, many central banks, notably China, have been working on their own digital currency projects, with the IMF reporting almost 100 central bank digital currencies are in development. So whenever you're out there talking to friends, family, relatives that don't think that central bank digital currencies are coming, you can show them simple statistics like this and just say, yes, they are 1,000,000% coming, and they're going to be here sooner rather than later as well. Obviously, we know there's a separation between stablecoins and CBDCs as well. You'll see another document here about the many ongoing projects that I have loaded up as well. On top of that, European Union transfer of funds rules are now going to be amended for crypto. I believe it's the end of 2024. This document came out June 28th. This is a regulation on information accompanying transfers of funds, ensuring traceability of fund transfers, in particular with a view to prevent, detect, and investigate money laundering and terrorist financing, only applying to transfers defined as banknotes and coins, scriptural money, and electronic money. This regulation, as of May 31st, 2023, deals with accompanying transfers of funds and certain cryptocurrency assets as well, extending the scope of the EU legal framework to transfers of virtual funds. And the regulation, like I said, will enter into force on the 30th of December 2024. If you pay attention to that 2025 time frame, there's certainly a lot of initiatives coming down the pike. I think 2025 is also SWIFT's deadline for ISO 20022 full implementation. And now we kind of see some of the BRICS aspects as well. So India refiners starting to settle in yuan payments for Russian oil imports, state sources. This is coming out of New Delhi. Indian refiners begun paying for some oil imports from Russia in Chinese yuan. Sources with direct knowledge of the matter said as Western sanctions force Moscow and its customers to find alternatives to the dollar for settling payments. The de-dollarization aspects certainly kind of continuing. Global shifts in crypto capital are underway. Here's where the money is going. This came out from Yahoo Finance today, basically stating that nations like the UAE and Singapore are taking over a lot, well, and now even Hong Kong, taking over a lot of the innovation aspects as the United States continues to not be able to regulate and innovate efficiently. So, and also talking about MICA as well, markets and crypto assets, certainly aspects coming out of the EU. Hong Kong launching a task force to promote blockchain initiatives. We just mentioned Hong Kong as well. Now, I found this pretty interesting. This is coming out of the Bank of Japan. I had to translate this. So ISO TC 68 is, let me tell you what that is. I had it pulled up earlier. Standardization in the field of banking, securities, and other financial services. Stock market graph and numbers merge. Blah, 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 blah. Technical Committee 68 is responsible for creating global standards for the financial services industry. TC 68 is responsible for standards that cover core banking, capital markets, including asset management, payments, credit card processing, and information security aspects specific to financial services. Why does this matter to you? Well, the Bank of Japan putting out this gigantic document about collaboration with ISO TC 68, which I just talked about, and ISO TC 307. You should be familiar with that if you're familiar with Quant. These are basically standards and operating rules for blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. And you can see here that TC 68 liaisons into TC 307. Here's the individual through Japan, and then back and forth. So they are certainly, and then 20022 is right in here as well. This is directly coming out of the Bank of Japan. This is ISO TC 68 financial services, which we talked about. It's like the core banking services and the standards for that. Deliberation system and domestic liaison relationships for ISO 20022, as well as ISO TC 307, which is blockchain. So pretty interesting. ISO TC 307, you can see here, blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. World Economic Forum more recently putting out a central bank digital currency global interoperability principles document. And you can see a lot of the domestic projects kind of going on as well. Let me find it here. This is a huge document, obviously. But this is talking about kind of all the initiatives going on right now within central bank digital currency, certainly talking about interoperability as well. If you want to go and check this out, it's at the World Economic Forum's website. Sub-Saharan Africa, CBDC priorities, MENA, so Middle East, Asia Pacific, APAC, pretty much running the entire gamut here of what's going on, and a gigantic timeline as well. So lots and lots and lots of information consistently coming out. This is coming out of the European Payments Council. This released the 13th of May 2023, yearly update of the guidelines on cryptographic algorithms usage and key management. This is a gigantic document that's talking about all sorts of different initiatives in blockchain. Mentions XRP in here. But yeah, I'm going to get into the weeds within this Fednow stuff here in a second. Also found this from the European Payments Council. This is one leg out instant credit transfer schemes. I think they're going effective 28th of November 2023, and this is ISO 20022. All right, last but not least, and I'm going to try to keep these videos short and sweet. I know I just ran through a lot there. But this is Fednow Service Provider Showcase, and this is Nox Networks, okay? And this is a more recent initiative within Fednow. So if I look at new to old within here, I can see one of the newer ones was Nox, right? And let me look at Nox. Nox services and products to support the Fednow service. Nox Networks provides a technology software solution via APIs and software development kits for financial institutions to leverage our file-based digital asset system and services as a central hub for all future digital money. File-based digital assets, which are non-blockchain, non-cryptocurrency solutions, but I'll get more into that in a second, are configurable and designed to work with the current regulatory environment. So what else does Nox do? These guys are a Fednow service provider, right? File-based digital assets, you can get into that here. Let's look at interoperability and programmability within Nox's white paper. The file-based ownership structure of the system means that FBDAs, or file-based digital assets, can be transacted across other payment networks. For example, traditional banking account systems or distributed ledger technology-based platforms like Ethereum, including stakeholders that are not using Nox networks and stakeholders that are required to use various financial standards. For example, ISO 20022 or SWIFT. What else is interesting? The Digital Dollar Project launches technical sandbox program to explore central bank digital currency infrastructure solutions. And who is involved in this? Certainly Nox, as well as Digital Asset, as well as Emtech, which should be familiar to anybody that follows the Hedera ecosystem, as well as Ripple. These were the initial participants within the Digital Dollar Project technical sandbox program. Nox Networks, Ripple, Emtech, and Digital Asset. Nox Networks, like I just said, is now a Fednow service provider within the showcase. On top of that, Nox Networks, back in 2022, providing extensive feedback to the Federal Reserve on the potential for a United States digital dollar. On top of that, the co-founder and head of operations at Nox Networks is also a part of the digital currency project team at the Bretton Woods Committee from December 2021 until present. Last but not least, I did want to mention within XX Network that Proxxy is live. If you are not aware regarding what type of issues IP address hacking brings to the table within this space and keeping your IP address private, I certainly recommend reading this. They put out a really good kind of link to this eFani document. And the intro itself, various laptops, phones, or other internet-connected devices are compromised every 39 seconds. While there are complex ways for hackers to attack you, many adhere to a straightforward IP address hacking strategy, using your online behaviors, location, and financial resources if they access your IP address. Well, with Proxxy, you can access or you can protect your IP address, especially using something like MetaMask, and create a buffer between that. If you're not aware, and if you haven't paid attention to the Ethereum stuff that came out through MetaMask with Infura, which is pretty much the default RPC endpoint. If you use MetaMask, Infura is the default. You can select a different node, but Infura does have the ability to track your IP address as well. So if you want to check out Proxxy, it's free to use. Certainly recommend you doing so. It's a plugin. So, all right, just wanted to kind of run the gamut here of all the stuff that I've found today. Certainly find it interesting whenever you look into the Fednow Service Provider Showcase that you see a company like Nox Networks, who is also one of the individual sandbox participants within the Digital Dollar Project alongside Emtech and Ripple. And their file-based digital assets can interoperate with other distributed ledger technologies. Probably nothing to see there, right? If you're interested in those bigger deep dives that I did within Fednow, I did every single provider of the showcase and went through and saw if they had any relationships with digital assets. Back in August of last year, there's 3 videos in a row. You can go and check that out on my YouTube as well. Appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Thanks. Bye.